This is a court document from when I was in foster care. It is 165 pages long. It's from Madison County. There, pages 1 through 3 is missing. On this, I am on stand being the witness. So here we will start. The lawyer starts. To the best of your recollection, at the time, whom did you live? I respond, with my mother. For how long of a period of time? I respond, for about 4.5 years. Then what happened? Then I went and stayed with my aunt, and my dad got custody of me. You went to stay with your aunt and then your dad? Is that what you're saying? I went and lived with my aunt when my mom still had custody of me for just a couple months. Do you have any recollection as to why that occurred? Yes. What was your recollection? Mom was having hard times and she wanted me to be safe and she didn't want me to be around the environment, I guess. So you went with your dad? For how long did you live with your dad? In about 1985 or so? Yes, I lived with him for like 3 years. About 3 years with your father? 3 or 4. That brings us up to pretty much the current time, is that right? Yes. Did you ever return to your mother's after 1985? Yes. Do you recall when? It was in the 7th and 8th grade, so it would have been the last 2 or 3 years. For the last 2 or 3 years, with whom have you lived? With Mom and Dad. I've just left and stayed with Mom for a couple weeks. I went and stayed with Dad and lived with Dad and then left again and went with Mom and then came back with Dad. I've been with him until... So all the back and forth. Why did that occur? Wasn't really getting along. With who? Dad and I was having some troubles at home with Mom, and I was going back and forth. And then I stayed with Dad from December the 25th. I went back with Dad. Is that the last year? 88? Yes. And why did you go back with your father at that time? I was just confused and I thought that would be the best thing, and I was kind of pressured into it. The court asked, you were kind of pressured into it, the witness, me. Well, in my way I was. Back to Mr. McGrady now. Tell the judge what you felt like. I felt like if I didn't, I was going to get in trouble. And my mom was going to get in trouble for me living with Mom at the time because Dad still had custody. You mean legal custody. And you really felt that was the reason you went back to live with your father? I was scared. Were you given any choices of how this was going back and forth between your parents handling from the years 1985 through 1988? I don't understand. Well, you went back and forth several times between both parents, and how was that handled, and why did you do this? Because I really wasn't happy in either place. So since December of 1988, how have things been going with your father? At first, they were pretty good. The last 6 months, they haven't been. 6 or 7 months. I would say you please testify a little louder. About the last 6 or 7 months, they haven't been going that well. They haven't been going that well. Would you tell the judge why? I was in 3A psych ward for a month and a half for suicide. You tried suicide? Yes. Why did you do that? I didn't think anybody cared because I wanted to stay with my mom and they wouldn't let me. And I just wanted to get it over because I knew I would never be happy. Do you have any lingering problems concerning that? Do you ever have similar thoughts right now? Well, just right now it's hurt myself and I've got the feelings that I don't have them anymore after I write the feelings on paper because I've been seeing a counselor. Who is the counselor? Lynn Vollmer. Did you have any problems during 1988 or occurring after the 25th of December 1988 while living in the household with your father? Did you have any physical problems? The abuse that happened about 3.5 months ago. You say the abuse that happened about 3.5 months ago. Yes. I would like to tell the judge about your best recollection of the date that occurred. It was the 27th of September, I think. This year, is that right? Yes, this year. Where did this take place? At my father's home. Who was present? My dad was in the room. I don't know who else was in the house. It was just me and my father as far as I knew.